What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Lore Party, the podcast that explores the stories, characters, and universes of our favorite video games. I'm your host, Connor, and my partner in crime here, Lawrence. How you doing?
Doing well. Excited to talk about some Last of Us. It's a long time coming.
I know, can't wait. Excited to be talking Last of Us with you. It's usually you may notice if you're a longtime listener, I am not Leo, unfortunately. Happy to be stepping in for him on this. I'm also excited to be introducing our new method of bringing our thoughts to you, the people, our dear listeners, on the new platform that allows us to, allows you to see us as we're doing our episodes. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so no more recording in your underwear.
I know. I'm really gonna miss that. But no, it's very exciting to be talking about the HBO adaptation of The Last of Us. It's almost upon us. The time is almost here for the long-awaited series based on a timeless video game. So it's one of those things like, there's that curse of bad video game movies. But
Yes.
there have been some good ones, I think, in the last few years. But I think HBO is doing some really interesting things with The Last of Us, and what we're here to talk about specifically today is the most recent trailer for The Last of Us series that we're going to be kind of breaking down and reacting to. So,
And before we do that, we're going to take care of our usual housekeeping. If you would we would love to hear from our listeners. So please email us about The Last of Us, your thoughts, your theories, what have you at podcast@loreparty.com. And we will definitely respond. We definitely love to hear from our fans.
of course, you may even hear your questions or feedback in a future episode. You never know. We'll read it out loud to the class so everyone can enjoy.
And your shitty hot takes. So,
Those
send
two.
them.
Of course, bring it on. If you want to hear more from us, you can find Lawrence on Twitter and Twitch at @producedby_LK.
Yes. And you can find Connor on Twitter at ConnorHowardVO. And you can check out his website at ConnorHowardVO.com.
That's true. That's right. And of course, you can always connect with the entire Lore Party team on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at @lore_party. Don't be a stranger. We'd love to hear from you.
And don't forget that underscore.
Remember that underscore. It's very important. But whether you're a longtime fan of Last of Us and you're a hardcore fan of the game and you're excited to see the series, or if you're completely new to all of it, you just saw something interesting coming out on HBO and you want to know more about it, either way, we're happy you're here and we welcome you to watch along with us, react and discuss with us as the series unfolds. But before we get started with this cross-country father-daughter trip from hell, we're going to take a quick ad break, and we'll be right back.
And we're back. So, the trailer for the HBO Last of Us series gives us a glimpse at like a bleak and dark, brutal world. The trailer kicks off with like this perfect opening line. Ellie is talking to Joel. And she says, "If you don't think there's hope for the world, then why go on?" To which Joel simply responds, "You haven't seen the world."
Mm.
We're given the kind of basic plot and concept of this Joel and Ellie dynamic. Like he's the transporter, she's the cargo, and her immunity is referred to as the greater purpose, according to a voice in the background that we can assume is Marlene's.
Right. And we also immediately understand that, like you said, this is a dark world. It's a ruined place. This is a future in which basically a parasitic / viral outbreak has destroyed society. So when we see our characters go on this journey across the country, it's a true cross-country odyssey. Really, it takes them across a wide variety of environments, from ruined city streets where you can see like bombed out craters and the after effects of societal collapse, basically, all the way to really remote wilderness like snowy forests and mountains and stuff. So there are going to be some, we're already treated to a glimpse of some really beautiful landscapes, but also some very haunting landscapes. So a little bit of both.
And no matter who you run into, it's gonna be shitty. So
There
that's a
aren't a lot of
guarantee.
friendly people left out there. Yeah.
Oh no, not at all.
Absolutely.
We get these like snapshots of like this kind of like dynamic intense, story beats. The
Mhm.
trailer seems to prioritize character moments and dialogue over like the actual violence that anyone who's played The Last of Us is probably commonly used to. So we're
Uh,
not seeing, I mean, I guess we get to see Pedro Pascal's Joel punch somebody, but like, we don't get the normal like super Joel brutality that we're used to.
right.
But we know it's coming.
We know what to expect as fans of the game, but I think the trailer pulls a few punches in terms of like, hey, let's not show everything all at once. But you definitely get the hint that things are going to get tense. There's going to be a lot of dramatic moments, harrowing moments. Joel and Ellie obviously are in for a tough ride. This is not going to be an easy experience. This journey they're going to go on together. Uh, yeah, like you said, they're going to run into unfriendly people. They're going to run into infected monsters. Which, again, something else the trailer seemed to use a less is more approach, I guess. Like there are hints to the infected. There are hints to some of the more outlandish threats that Joel and Ellie will face. But uh, either way, they're in for a wild ride. But the thing is, like, this is something I'll just touch on and get into more in depth later. But there's an undertone to this trailer that sort of implies that they're going to be bonding too. They're going to get to know each other. They're going to come to rely on each other throughout all this danger. And so
Yeah.
it's going to be a roller coaster for sure.
Oh yeah, it's like where the trailer kind of pulled its punches with the violence, it definitely still hit you with the emotional damage.
Oh
It's like
sure.
anyone who's played it, it's like, "Oh, I know what's gonna happen to some of these people."
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Like, we could really get into what a fan of the game would take away from this trailer versus what someone coming into it blind would take away from it. But
Right.
like either way, I think even if you know nothing about The Last of Us, you're gonna watch this and go, "That's intense, man. What is going on here?" So, but yeah, as
Yes.
fans of the game, we know like, oh, we're not even ready for what we know is coming. So,
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. And it's like, I think like the best part is the trailer ends showing this, horde of infected people climbing out of what looks like a crater or a ditch or something. And then there's this huge hulking bloater, this massive infected
yep.
just being that's like growling as it, lifts itself up. And when that thing shows up, like it's gonna be crazy. It's gotta be.
Yeah, there are going to be so many set pieces and just horrifying moments that really leave an impression on viewers. I'm pretty sure. Like, and the overall gist of the trailer though is we're getting just some snippets of dialogue, some visuals that really just impart on us. Hey, this is just going to be a trip. It's going to be a journey, a tough one, but. Yeah, we actually don't get. I'm glad that this is not one of those trailers that kind of spoils the entire story for you. Like I feel like that's been a bit too common with movie trailers, at least lately. But no, this gives you just enough to go on. You get that it's a guy, a middle aged man and a teenage girl thrown together by circumstances in a very hostile environment, and they're kind of forced to rely on each other, and it's going to be this odyssey. So I love that the trailer gives you not too much, not too little, and that's pretty much what we see. They I think HBO's only put out like the one teaser and then this one full length trailer. I think so far. Am I wrong on that or
I think so. Yeah, I think
yeah
from what I remember, it's just like we've barely been given any sort of, because I think the trailer, like, it honestly just came out. So like
yeah
this was their thing. They were like, yeah, this is like your end of the year kind of gift, because before that all we got were just pictures.
right yeah we got some behind the scenes photos and yeah then this trailer and then the series will be premiering later this month. So it's coming up what in like a week or two, like really soon. So
Yeah, yeah, like
yeah.
a week, the 15th. So
Wow. Well, I'm excited. Having watched this trailer, we can get into some of our thoughts on this. Like I think as fans of the game, we'll watch this and have a lot of thoughts. We'll have a lot of just takeaways. For me though, I'm just optimistic. You know, I'm after watching this, I'm thinking this series is in good hands in general. It seems to be in the hands of people who understand the source material,
Yep.
and that's I could go on about shows that have disrespected source material. It's there's been plenty of that, but like The Last of Us, it is one of those games that I feel like it definitely could translate very well to a single like a small screen format, and I think the trailer has demonstrated that that's the case here. For one reason is that the visual tone and the vibe of the game are very alive in the
Yeah.
scenes that the trailer shows us. Like The Last of Us had such a lifelike quality to it. There was nature, there was mankind, there was brutality, there was darkness, there was daylight, there was so much texture and nuance to the game artistically, the art style of the game, and this trailer like shows us so much of that nuance, so much of that layered approach to the visuals. So I'm blown away by that, and the acting also. Reason number two, phenomenal. Like even just a sentence from Pedro Pascal, I'm like, God damn, he's nailing this Joel thing. Like he
Yes.
really understands how deep of a character Joel is and how engaging of a character he is. Not every actor can pull off Joel convincingly, but I'm really, really looking forward to Pedro's take on him because he's one of the most entertaining actors working today, and he's in like top form in this trailer for sure.
He's even got Joel's icy stare down.
Oh my god, he's so good. Yeah, he's really good at that. Just you haven't seen this, you haven't seen the world. Like I was pulled in immediately. So
Yeah.
loving that. Likewise for Bella Ramsey as Ellie, because she's kind of an unknown to me. I haven't really seen her in anything else, but even just like again, even from the little snapshots the trailer gives us, I think she really understands who Ellie is a person because she shows that quirkiness and awkwardness that
Yep.
we associate with Ellie, but that outer presentation really hides that core of insecurity and
Yep.
fear. That's who Ellie is to me, and I think Bella like shows an understanding of that. So excited about that. And lastly, I really loved how this trailer demonstrated this interesting dichotomy about The Last of Us. I think the world of The Last of Us is very dreary and abysmal, but there's also a hopeful tone to it in some places.
Yeah.
And the trailer, especially near the end, when you start hearing "Take on Me" in the background, I was like, no, that's so cool because it's like everything's scary and dramatic, but like there's just this uplifting kind of things can be okay maybe if you fight hard enough sort of quality to it that you know, it kind of ties the end of the trailer back into the beginning, that whole concept of without hope, why keep going?
Exactly.
And that's something that the game really leaned into. And I think the show is also looking to lean into. So, and on all three of those points, I think whoever's in charge of this show, like the people involved in making this series, they seem to get it from what I can tell here. So I'm psyched. That's my takeaway.
Oh yeah. No, I 100% agree. And like, going off of that, I think like one of the things that I was super excited about and made me like, kind of like more optimistic about the show overall from like when it was first announced was like how closely they had Neil Druckmann on the project.
Yeah.
Like he was, I think, there on site. He was consulting, like he was really there with some decision making power, which is good because like
Mhm.
I remember when they were coming out with The Last of Us 2 and they released a trailer and they had interviewed him and Neil Druckmann said, he's like, the fear is that when you make something great and you go back, you're gonna ruin it or you're gonna ruin
Mhm.
what makes it special.
Mhm.
And in the same interview, he said the test for them was that we have to come up with a story that stands on its own and has weight and the same kind of feeling when, we came up with the original story. But since it's, the second thing, it's additive. So it has to respect the first game and also like expand upon the world. And that's what I feel like I'm seeing when we get this trailer.
Yeah.
Like the Last of Us came out for PlayStation 3 in 2013. And like Sam Raimi has tried to make a Last of Us movie and they didn't put it out. And like,
Oh wow.
it has been for years, a live adaptation of this has been in the works and has consistently kind of fallen flat.
Hmm.
But like now we're at a point where we're getting something, and I think like they're taking what they've gotten from what they've learned from The Last of Us 2 and making those tough calls, and they're using it to expand on this part of the world.
Wow.
We're seeing stuff in the trailer that's like, not only Last of Us Part 1, but Left Behind, where we get to see more about, Ellie discovering her immunity and like, the events that led her to understanding that. Like,
Right.
and then we're seeing these like familiar parts of the story in the trailer, like Sam and Henry and Bill and possibly David. And then there's also new things that are added. So like, what I liked about it is I felt like I got that same feeling that when I was playing the game for the first time, and it was just like a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
But like, I really do I agree with you. The performance from like Pedro and Bella was like super amazing. Just like the opening dialogue that we talked about. That is like such an early on Joel and Ellie conversation when she's trying to break through in the game, and he's like, "No, I'm just doing a job."
Yeah. Like that early phase of that, they're just figuring each other out and their kind of personalities clash. And that I can already tell they're going to have such good chemistry in those early scenes, I think.
Oh yeah. And like even Troy Baker, not Troy Baker, who's Joel Baker, basically, we just call him that. He did an interview and he was like Pedro nailed this role so hard, it made me go back and like rethink how I portrayed Joel. Like,
Wow.
It was like he was like, some of like his decisions that he made for the character is like were so good that like I was even like, oh, shit, maybe I should have done this.
Man, I should have done that.
Yeah, like
that's a crazy high compliment. That's awesome.
And it's just like you see it instantly. Like it's a testament to writing and acting. You have that very short very short sentence that just says so much about like his life experiences. Like, you don't know how the world is, so don't talk to me about that shit. Like, right. I'm surviving. Like, save that optimism for someone else, because like I know it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then like, even the supporting cast, is also, I'm out here like flipping out when I see this trailer because it's so awesome. Like, you get, we're seeing Marlene in there, and I'm like, that's like, I feel like I'm watching the video game.
Yeah.
But you're also giving, the original Ellie and Joel, Ashley Johnson, Troy Baker, they're in the trailer for what we can see. Ashley Johnson's giving birth. Troy Baker is in the group of people in the snow holding a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just kind of cool things. And then Nick Offerman is a Bill, and
that's gonna be so cool. Yeah.
That's like a role that was made for that man.
That
like,
just makes so much sense. Yeah,
it makes so much sense. Like when they were like, yeah, Nick Offerman is Bill, I was like, oh fuck, I didn't think about that, but that's so
yeah, 2 and 2 is 4. Yeah, of course he is.
Right. And then like seeing like Lamar Johnson and Kevon Woodard as like Sam and Henry. And just like the one line we get, where it's like, you're not her daughter, or you're not her father, but you were someone's. Like, it shit just hits really hard.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what I'm to wrap up my long spiel about this trailer, it's basically just I'm getting that playing the video game for the first time experience. And so like, I imagine that someone coming in seeing this that is never played a Last of Us game has to be getting a lot from this.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited to hear from. I'm really curious about like I mentioned earlier. I'd love to know. I'd be so curious to know like someone's takeaway when they start watching this show who hasn't played the game, because watching the trailer, you and we're keeping an eye out for characters we're familiar with. Like, oh, that's Tess, that's Bill, that's Sam Henry, whoever. But like someone who knows nothing about the game, I just want to know, like, are you like what? I guess there's only so much they can take away from the trailer. But when they start watching the show, like, are you invested? Are you interested in what's happening here? And if so, why or why not? And so like we said earlier, we love to hear from our listeners, and especially if you haven't played The Last of Us, but you want to watch the HBO show, please email us your thoughts. We'd really love that perspective.
Yeah.
But like that's a roundabout way to say, like, I think this is going to have something for everybody. Hopefully, even if you haven't, if you have played the game, it's going to be a fun exercise in like seeing what makes the transition, what's tweaked, what things look like going from game to TV. But if you haven't, I'm like, you're gonna experience all this. You're gonna experience this story for the first time, and I'm kind of jealous of you for that, because I
Yeah.
would love to be able to experience the story again for the first time if I could, but in this new way and a new format. So, and like you said, Lawrence, they're actually expanding on a few things. They're adding some things like a flashback to Ellie being born. Like that's not something we really saw in the game. So the show exploring those, like, I assume that's what that was. That's speculation on my part, but it looked like that's a flashback to Ellie being born. So like the magic of a TV show, it's going to allow the showrunners to kind of explore different aspects of the game's story in new ways. So it's going to be a lot.
Yes, and we will definitely have a lot to say. Like I'm like kind of bursting at the seams. I've played this game 100 billion times, and so I'm just kind of like, I need to see this. It's just like this is gonna be huge.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't wait. I need to watch it. I'm really excited to watch it. One last thing, I know, just going back to visuals and just like, the Pittsburgh scenes in the trailer, like I'm so enamored with them, and like the Humvee with We the People on it, and like the hunters who took over Pittsburgh. I'm like, dude, that's I don't know, just it's so surreal seeing that in live action, I guess. Like I'm just so used to seeing that in PS3 graphics. Just seeing real people in those costumes on that set with those props, like, dude, this is so freaking cool. I cannot wait for this. So
yeah, no, and I honestly I want to see how and if they expand on that story, because like I actually learned some new stuff about it just the other day. I was replaying the game, so like there's a lot there that like people who even played the game may not be aware of.
Right.
Yes, and so there's also like potentially running into David and that whole spiel that we won't get into now.
Jeez, yeah. Wait for that one. Yeah.
Overall, we're just in for a wild ride.
Absolutely. That's putting it mildly. And I think we had a few questions we're gonna speculate on and discuss after another quick break. But stick around, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back, and we have some burning questions after watching this trailer. Just some things on our mind that we're curious about and are looking forward to seeing answered in the show. I guess I'll go first. I only have a couple. There's one thing I'm curious about is how the show will kind of balance the core aspects of the game in terms of like the action and the exploration. If you've played The Last of Us, you know that a lot of the game involves kind of just exploring these environments, making your way through them, whether that means kind of solving environmental puzzles or, just finding clues and, putting together the background story of where you are and gathering supplies to survive, like ammo, Molotov stuff, like whatever. But on top of that, you're usually battling enemies like infected or, human enemies who want to kill you. And I'm just curious to see how the show will balance, like, hey, Joel and Ellie need to, sneak, kill, whatever to survive. And so is there going to be a lot of that? Are they going to save? Are they going to kind of like glance over some of the broader, exploration legs of the game where they're just going to stick to the set pieces, I guess. That's what I'm wondering. Like, how are they going to balance that? Because I'm sure they don't want to have like 3 scenes per episode of Joel strangling guys just to get like to the next room or whatever. I would watch that personally, but I don't know who else would. So I'm guessing they'll probably just stick to like the really important deadly situations that, kind of make up the major chapter markers of the game. So, I'm just curious about that. That's not really a concern. I'm just kind of, looking forward to see how they walk that line, I guess.
Yeah.
My other question, and I think you actually answered it for me, Lawrence. When I watched this trailer, the entire time I was thinking to myself, where are Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson? Are they showing up in the show at all? Like, 'cause I heard they are, but I didn't recognize them. I didn't like place their faces in the trailer, but you mentioned that they were in the trailer, so like, okay, there we go. Well, we know that they're taking part, but I was just curious, like, oh, where are they going to show up? How are they going to be participating? What kind of role are they going to have? I guess earlier I was thinking, I don't care. I'm just excited that they're involved. I'm looking forward to seeing them, no matter what kind of shape that takes, because they're both extremely talented people, and I'm just psyched that they're on the show. So
And I literally only found that out because internet. I was looking at
yeah,
comments. Someone
you
was
did
like,
more
"Oh,
homework than I did.
they were like, yeah, they're in there, they're in this part." They're like, "Oh, okay." It's like, all right. They're like, yeah, especially like with Troy Baker, they're like, yeah, he's like right over in the scene to the left, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
cool.
yeah, I completely missed that myself. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I'm
funny.
like internet is they're more sleuthy than I am. And like the questions I had were, pretty much in the similar vein. I got a little bit like video game crazy, but like one of the questions I have is like The Last of Us normally does like a good job of like leaving clues scattered around, but they never give you the whole picture, and like that's intentional. The audience is supposed to infer like this is what happened in this area, or like, hey, this is probably what happened, before or during or just right after the outbreak. Like this is how society collapsed. And I want to know how, and even when you get clues, they're normally like one sided perspective. It's someone's journal or notebook
Right,
or a piece of paper.
right.
Um, and so it's like, I want to know how they're going to really kind of balance providing just enough information to fans so that they
Mhm.
can still speculate, while expanding the lore for people that have, played the game, and they've read those notes and documents and have gone hunting for them. Because like I don't
Right.
particularly want to know everything. Like I don't want the Last of Us series to be like, this is what caused the outbreak. Like I
Yeah,
would rather speculate on it. Like, hey, here are some clues that like might lead you down the path of figuring it out on your own. But like I don't want them to straight up say like, this is what happened here. This is what happened with these characters. This is why Sam and Henry are together. Blah 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 blah. Like I kind of just really want it to be inferred, but I want them to build upon
yeah,
like stuff that already exists. And so I'm kind of curious about that. Like, what are they gonna do in terms of
yeah.
that?
I definitely agree that like ideally it'll take a more show don't tell approach and a subtle approach, kind of like the game does. I think if they can work that out for TV, that's the best way to go. So I'm with you there. That'd be cool.
Yeah, like keep it a mystery. Like I like that. Like even in the trailer, we have new people. There's like they're talking to that couple, and
Yeah,
like I would like for them to just be like, hey, this thing happens, or here's just an observation that we have of
yeah,
the world. Like we don't
yeah.
know why things happen.
Yeah, there were no really huge exposition dumps in the games, so I don't think the show should do that either, and it doesn't look like they will. But that's uh, that's another thing to be curious about how they handle that.
Yeah, Neil Druckmann, please. Please have nixed. I hope you've nixed any and all attempts to do that.
Yeah, we're
Um,
trusting you, Neil.
and then like another thing is like Ashley Johnson giving birth. It, just like you were talking about earlier, just kind of made me wonder if we're gonna get more of kind of a backstory on the early days of Fireflies. Like I know you have like 9 episodes. The first one is like 85 minutes, but
Wow.
I know like, but I don't know how long the other ones are. So I wonder if we're gonna get some sort of like slight backstory, because like in the game, they've only like briefly mentioned things about like Ellie's mom, but like it's still in the same vein as what they do in the game. A lot of stuff is inferred, and you also have to
Mhm.
read some books for this. But I wonder how they're gonna kind of handle that, and like her part in the Fireflies, the events that led to her giving birth to Ellie, because that's never been explained,
Yeah.
and like why that was in there in the first place. So, because it
Right.
has to have some significance to the story, and Ellie being born never really had any significance. It was just Ellie having this immunity. So like
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, like, what does that mean? So like
Yeah.
that's something we all get to experience for the first time. So I'm wondering like what is the significance of that, how they're going to handle that, and if that's gonna be like tied into some, kind of deeper backstory.
Yeah.
And I think like my final question is basically like how far is this season going to take us? There's 9 episodes. We got a long episode which I feel like is going to be the first episode I feel like is going to give us the beginning of the game. I just feel like that's going to give us the beginning of the game.
That's a fair
Yeah.
fair prediction, I think. Yeah.
Like just going to end right there. But yeah, I think like it's just going to be like at the end of it, it's going to be like, fuck. But it's also super long, so like it may give us this, a little bit further back and the beginning of the game. But I'm wondering how far this is going to go, because there's a lot to cover in just the first Last of Us, and there's a lot of important things that that affect Joel and Ellie's dynamic. And so like where is the season going to like drop us off at the very beginning or at the very end, and like how many seasons is it going to take to wrap up this this game? Because there's a lot, and without spoiling anything, it's just like if that is David we see in the trailer, then that's very far into that story.
Pretty yeah. I feel like you can do a lot with 9 episodes. I think you could really take it to its natural conclusion in 9 episodes, especially with 85 minutes in the first one. But like, like you said, they could go an inch wide, mile deep, or vice versa. There's a lot of the background they could really tease out if they wanted to. But I feel like if you wanted to just go A to B, beginning of the game to end of the game, 9 episodes is plenty for that. But like there's a lot of that gray area. There's a lot of questions in terms of, what side characters are they going to really like lean into and make a lot of use with, and what background stories are they going to really explore? There's a lot of questions around that for sure. I would be shocked if they just go ahead and do like Last of Us Part 2, the second game in season 2. Like that would be crazy. I can't really imagine that, but it's feasible to get to the end of the game in 9 episodes, but yeah, like I said, that could look a lot of different ways. So that's a very good question.
I think we need at least like 2 seasons of the first game and like a 3rd season of in between. Yeah, like
wow.
I know I'm
that's ambitious. I like
that's
that.
That's probably too much, but like give me 2 seasons of the first game, then give me a season that leads in, or just give me 2 seasons of the first game, and like we'll call it squares. I
think you could really do everything the game has to offer and really do it justice if you stretched it out to 2 seasons. That might start to, I personally, I like where your head's at, but personally I would start to feel like we might be getting into filler territory, honestly, with a whole season for half of the game. but no, you're not wrong though. There's a lot to explore. They could do a lot with that, but I'd be surprised, but that'd be cool to see.
Yeah, there's like I just want I like if all the episodes were 85 minutes, which I know is like also an extremely huge ask, because I'd be like, god damn, this is long. But if they were like, you know what, we gave you 9 85-minute episodes, like then I'm like, okay, cool, you probably covered this whole game in one
I think so.
We don't need 2 seasons for this.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair enough. Maybe like episode 1, 85 minutes, but then also the finale is a long one. So you could probably have like the bookmarks be super long, but maybe normal hour-long episodes in between, maybe.
Yeah, because I think you can get, towards the end of the game, you can get a whole season-ish out of the end of the game, mainly because there's like time jumps between seasons. So that's
true, yeah. Yeah.
But I think there's a good stopping point at the end of David, that I think that hopefully that's where like this thing wraps up. But I'm wondering, I'm curious, like, whatever they do, they've obviously consulted with Neil Druckmann. He's made the call, so I trust. And Neil, we trust.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not too worried about it. But you raise a really interesting question about the time jumps. I didn't really think about that because going from summer to fall to winter to spring, like there is a lot that you absolutely could fill more episodes with just what do they do in the meantime? Like what are the rest of their travels that we didn't see in the game? Like you can really let your imagination go wild with where they go and what they get into in those in between times. That's something I didn't really consider, but
Because
yeah.
in The Last of Us Part 2, they kind of did that where they had Ellie has a journal, but
Yeah, that's right.
you could see the journal and there were new journal entries that would just appear. And it was like, oh, okay, this is how what I went through getting here. And like they're also always on foot. So like that's where I'm kind of like, hey, well, is there gonna be something where, there's still like some significant events that
Yeah.
like that's because I feel like that's where the world building really comes into play.
Mhm.
And that's where they can kind of have a little bit more creative freedom.
For sure.
But hey,
Yeah.
who knows?
Who knows? Either way, we're gonna have a good time finding out, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So what? We're gonna wrap up here with our final thoughts. Just final takeaways from the trailer, possible theories for what's gonna happen next, and just anything we haven't touched on yet. So, Lawrence, what are your final thoughts? What last takeaways?
I'm super excited. That's basically it. I'm super excited. This is a long time coming. This is honestly one of my favorite video games and arguably like one of the best like stories that I've, ever experienced personally. If I had a prediction, uh my prediction is that it's going to be an enormous hit with a lot of the core fan base and like it's going to bring in a lot of new people to The Last of Us, and I really hope that they kind of explore further and check out all the other material that's out there. And then there's always going to be that one jackass on the internet that's like, yeah, don't think it blah 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 because they kind of blah 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 this part.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
yeah, your standard.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, you can always count on, not no one's going to be completely happy with everything. You're not going to please everybody. But I think there is my final thoughts here. I think I do agree. There's a solid chance that this show does bridge that gap, does build that bridge between fans of the game and people who just found this, exciting new television series that, explores the human condition, has thrills, chills, and, drama, but also a lot of heart to it. And, they knew nothing about the game, but just found, something special about a show that just kind of came across their feed one day. And you kind of combine that with this loyal following of one of the most celebrated stories in all of gaming. That's from like, I think we're in agreement here from what it looks like to what looks to be a very faithful, very skillfully executed adaptation. And the last thing I'll say is that, when it comes to taking a video game story and turning it into a TV show, we had a very polarizing example earlier this year in the Halo series. You may, if you've been following Lore Party for a while, you may remember myself and my co-hosts Kevin and Jaden. We watched the entire Halo series and reacted to it on episodes, and that was hit and miss for sure. That was a hit and miss adaptation, but personally, for me, I'll die on this hill. I thought it was good. I liked that show. I thought it was fine. And to your point, Lawrence, yeah, there will always be those people who just are not happy with creative changes made and, the transition from game to TV, because that's not an easy transition. That usually is not a very easy thing to pull off, because there are just certain concessions you have to make in terms of like set pieces or, keeping a coherent storyline. But, you could argue that, sometimes you're adding characters you don't need to add, or you're removing characters you don't need to remove, or you're doing things to characters you don't need to do. But no, we've seen it done before. And like we've discussed, Neil being involved, Troy and Ashley being involved, and just from the trailer alone, we're seeing this really good bite-sized sample of the visuals, the emotion, the drama. It's looking really good so far. So,
oh yeah,
cannot wait.
Well, that about wraps it up. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcast. It really helps us grow the show. And be sure to connect with us on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter at lore_party. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.